when Bill passed, and it's remarkable to me. Both these men, Jerry, of course, an executive, a Hall of Fame player, they didn't just get from the game of basketball. They gave to the game of basketball. And I think for anybody like you and I that loves the game, like that's all you can ask for. Both these guys are legends, and I feel awful about Jerry passing.
Yeah, it's tough. Like my kids, one of the first basketball-related things that they learned was the logo. And I was like, boys, who is that? And they're like, oh, that's Jerry West. That's Jerry West. They have no understanding, but they would see the NBA logo and they would talk about it and see it. And they're, 7 and 9 now, but when they were 4 and 6, I'm like, who's that? They're like, oh, that's Jerry West. That's the logo, right? So they would he was such a big part of our game. Basketball is still a relatively new sport, right? It's still relatively new when you compare it to soccer, when you compare it to baseball. And when you still have your legends, the guy that was the logo is still alive. The greatest players we've ever seen, a lot of them are still alive. So for me, you look at, Kareem, Bill Walton, all of these guys that are iconic people, they gave so much because they felt a responsibility still to the game of basketball because they remember not having it. The game had changed their lives and they wanted to continue to contribute to it. Bill Walton, calling basketball games, Jerry West, still an executive, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, still doing social justice. Like these guys that really were the anchors to starting the league, the first popular players. A lot of them never disappeared because they understood their responsibility. And I think Jerry West was, at the top of that list.
I say this all the time too. We, meaning our generation of player and certainly the generation after us, we have benefited so much from the foundation that they laid. I bring this up all the time, like Oscar Robertson suing so that free agency could exist in 1970. It took 6 years for that case to happen. Whether it's been Bill Russell, Bob Cousy, Jerry West, you mentioned Kareem, Dr. J, of course, in the modern NBA, Magic, Larry, Michael, Kobe. Like we owe all the good stuff that we get out of the game, we owe to these guys. We owe to them.
And that's what made Bill's passing so hard for me and why I haven't really spoke about it much is because I didn't have much as a kid, but I had NBC triple headers on Sunday. I had Marv Albert. I had Snapper Jones. So I was a kid that would go there and just sit at home, watch. And my parents didn't watch basketball. My brothers didn't really watch. It was really just my psychotic love for it. And so he was a part of my childhood. So then to go meet him and have him take me under his wing when I was 17 years old, one of the icons of basketball. It's holy shit. And to see how genuine of a man he was. And the first NBA Finals game I ever went to, he was like, hey, boys, do you want to come out to my house? So I flew out to his house and I stayed with Luke and his brothers. So we would be training, messing around, hanging out. And then he had to go to LA to call a game. And he had 2 tickets. He's like, Luke, would you and Richard like to come to a game? And I'm like, I'd been to one other NBA game in that point in my life.
You were in college then?
I was in college. I was in college. But I've been to one game. And my parents bought me 1 ticket because our family didn't have a lot. They were like, Richard loves basketball. Open up Christmas. It's 1 ticket to go see David Robinson. So my dad dropped me off, probably went to go, grab a beer at the local sports bar, and then picked me up. Right, because that's what
the game solo,
because that's what we did in the 90s. You would drop your kid off, right? But so I went there. They gave me like $8. I sat there, I got a little Pizza Hut personal pan pizza, watched my favorite player, and then my dad picked me up. So the next basketball game I went to was because Bill Walton got me a ticket to the NBA Finals, and that was just a great example of constantly give back to the game. If you see something in people, it doesn't matter if it's a kid, doesn't matter if it's your son's roommate who plays the exact same position that is also competing against your son against the NBA, find these people, nurture them, support them, and now I'm broadcasting just like him. And so he was such a father figure for me up until the end. He was sending me texts like, hey, you're great. You're doing a great job. I'm so proud of you from the hospital bed. right? He was sending that in hospice care. He was sending Carlisle messages. He was sending me messages.
Carlisle shared the messages.
Yeah.
Dave Ash, he was sent. Dave shared some of the Twitter.
Yeah, and it was like I was getting those same messages while, you were calling the NBA Finals, and I'm sitting here with the A team, and I'm with the B team on ABC. Like, damn it, JJ, you left me out here in the trenches, right? And he's sending me messages of support, and it was like I knew, and even though I couldn't share with the world because I found out in February that he was struggling, I couldn't share with the world, so I was kind of privately struggling. But then to know that man, even on his deathbed, was supporting me, the OGs in this game did so much for us, and a lot of stuff. The fans and you will never know how much Bill Russell, Oscar, Kareem, Spencer Haywood. I'm going to go back to the guy that fought to go straight out of high school. Like, there's so many guys that have impacted our game that are still alive today, and I'm just proud to be a part of it.
It's the greatest fraternity, brotherhood you want to talk about to get to be a part of.
And I wore this shirt not knowing. I literally got the alert on my phone that Jerry West had passed after I got dressed and I was walking here, and I'm like, oh, shit. Yeah. Love you, Jerry.
Two things real quick on Jerry. There are certain people, and I don't think either of us are like the starstruck people, like where we see a celebrity and we're like, oh my God, it's so-and-so, right? Mm-hmm. We've been around a lot of people in our lives. There are certain people, though, when you see them, you straighten up, mm-hmm. you pay your respects to them. Like Jerry was always that to me. And I'll never forget in high school when I was playing for Boo Williams. Boo, of course, is like an AAU legend. This guy's been doing it for 40 plus mm-hmm. years in Virginia. He's had 15 or 16 guys go to the NBA. He's had a bunch of women play in the WNBA. This guy is a legend. And in my junior, senior year of high school, he gave a quote about me, and he said, JJ's the best shooter I've seen since Jerry West. That was like 25 or 26 years ago. It's probably the best basketball compliment I've ever received in my life, to be compared to Jerry West as a shooter. Jerry West was ahead of his time. This was an incredible shooter that shot right around 50% from the field. Mm-hmm. Like, that was unheard of for a guy to take that amount of jump shots and shoot that well from the field. He was legitimately one of the greatest players of all time, for sure. And he's in the conversation for greatest shooter ever.
100%. I was very fortunate. Rod Thorne, who's in the Hall of Fame, he drafted me. He drafted Michael Jordan from West Virginia. He was the guy after Jerry West from West Virginia. So him and Jerry were like best friends. And so we would sit on the plane playing cards, and he would just tell me stories and tell stories. Me, Jay Kidd, Mark Jackson, we'd be playing cards. And Jerry West was just one of those guys. I was so fortunate last year during NBA Con. They were like, hey, would you like to do some interviews? We're doing things at NBA Con. And it was Jerry West, and I got a chance to sit down. Kareem came, but it was the fact that I got to interview Jerry West. I don't think you guys at home understand. We are basketball nerds. We grew up as kids just like everybody else. And we sit up here like, holy crap, we made it. We never lost that. That's one of the things I respect in you, is we've never lost the kid in us that